The morning it all fell apart started like any other. I remember everything about that day with painful clarity. How Anne kissed me goodbye, the way her perfume lingered after she left, even the damn birds chirping outside our bedroom window. 15 years of marriage, and I never saw it coming. "You're up early," I said, watching her get ready in our bathroom mirror. She was beautiful in the morning light, her dark hair catching the sun. "Meeting with Oliver about the Richardson property," she replied, applying her lipstick. "Could be a big commission." I stepped behind her, wrapping my arms around her waist like I'd done thousands of times before. "Dinner tonight? I could grill those steaks you like." "Perfect." She turned and kissed me, careful not to smudge her lipstick. "Love you, Tom." "Love you too." If I'd known those were the last normal moments we'd ever share, maybe I would have held her longer, said something different. But that's the thing about betrayal. It doesn't announce itself. It whispers. Later that day, I was reviewing blueprints at the construction site when my phone buzzed. A text from Stacy, Anne's best friend since college. "Can you meet me for coffee? It's important." Something in her tone made my stomach twist. "Sure." Murphy's in 20? The coffee shop was quiet for a Tuesday afternoon. Stacy sat in a corner booth, fidgeting with her cup. She'd been in our wedding party, had held our son Harry when he was born. Now she couldn't meet my eyes. "What's going on, Stace?" She took a deep breath. "You need to know something. About Anne. And Oliver." "Oliver?" "Her client." "He's more than a client, Tom." The world tilted sideways. "What do you mean?" "I saw them yesterday. At the Marina Bay Hotel." Her voice cracked. "They were intimate." My coffee turned to acid in my stomach. "You're sure?" "I'm so sorry, Tom. I didn't want to believe it either. But Joan saw them too, last week at that new restaurant downtown." Memories crashed through my mind. Anne's late meetings, her new clothes, the way she'd been guarding her phone. All the signs I'd ignored because I trusted her, because I loved her. "How long?" My voice sounded strange to my own ears. "I don't know. But Tom, there's something else. The Richardson property? It doesn't exist. Oliver's been using it as a cover." I stood abruptly, nearly knocking over my coffee. "I have to go." "Tom, wait. What are you going to do?" "I don't know yet." Outside, I sat in my truck, hands shaking as I pulled up our shared location app. Anne's icon showed she was at home. No, not home, the Oliver Grand Hotel. My vision blurred with tears or rage. I couldn't tell which. I remembered our first date, how she'd laughed at my terrible jokes. Our wedding day, when she looked at me like I was her whole world. Harry's birth, holding each other as we marveled at our perfect son. 15 years of memories, now tainted by lies. My phone rang. Ross, my oldest friend. "Hey brother, you okay?" "Stacy called me." "No, I'm really not." "Want me to come over?" "I need to handle this myself." "Just don't do anything stupid, okay?" I hung up and dialed Anne's number. It went to voicemail twice before she answered. "Hey honey, I'm in a meeting." "At the Oliver Grand?" Silence. "Tom, don't. Just don't." "I know, Anne. About everything." I heard her sharp intake of breath. "Please, let me explain. Come home. Now. Or I swear to God, I'll come to that hotel myself." 20 minutes later, I heard her car in the driveway. She entered slowly, like a stranger in her own home. I sat at our kitchen counter, where we'd shared thousands of meals, helped Harry with homework, built our life. "How long?" I asked before she could speak. "Tom, how long?" She sank into a chair. 6 months. The number hit me like a physical blow. 6 months of lies. Half a year of betrayal. "Do you love him?" I don't know." Tears spilled down her cheeks. "It just happened. I was lonely, and Oliver was there, and..." "Lonely?" My laugh sounded hollow. "We sleep in the same bed every night. I've given you everything I have. Built this house with my own hands. And you were lonely? You don't understand. You're always working, always tired. When was the last time we really talked? Really connected? So this is my fault? I put in a lot of effort to provide you and Harry with a good life. So does that make it okay to sleep with another man? No, that's not what I meant. I felt invisible. Oliver made me feel seen again. The pain in my chest threatened to swallow me whole. And I didn't? Every morning when I told you I loved you? Every night when I held you? That didn't make you feel seen? She started sobbing. I'm sorry. I'm so sorry. Does Harry know? God, no. Of course not. I stood, my chair scraping against the floor. Get out. What? Get out of my house. Go to Oliver, since he makes you feel so special. Tom, please. We can work through this. Go to counseling. Work through this? You've been sleeping with another man in our bed for 6 months. There's nothing to work through. It wasn't in our bed. I would never. Oh, that makes it better? Hotel rooms make it classier? She reached for me. I stepped back like her touch would burn. What about Harry? She whispered. I'll figure out how to tell our son his mother is a liar. Now get out. She grabbed her purse, hand shaking. At the door, she turned back. I never meant to hurt you, Tom. I still love you. Funny thing about love, and it's supposed to mean something. After she left, I sat in our dark kitchen, surrounded by photos of our life together. Our wedding day, Harry's birth, family vacations. All lies now. My phone buzzed. Ross again. Did she admit it? Yeah. I'm coming over. You shouldn't be alone. I'm fine. Like hell you are. I'll bring the whiskey. I hung up and looked at our family photo on the wall, last Christmas. All of us smiling. Happy. Perfect. What a fucking joke. Ross found me still sitting in the dark kitchen, staring at an untouched glass of whiskey. He didn't say anything at first, just sat down and poured himself a drink. Remember Julie? He finally asked. Your ex-wife? Yeah. Thought I'd never survive that betrayal. He took a sip. But here I am. How's Harry taking it? Stacy appeared in the doorway, her eyes red from crying. He doesn't know yet. My voice cracked. He's at soccer camp until Sunday. Jesus, Tom. Ross shook his head. What are you going to tell him? Before I could answer, my phone buzzed. Oliver. Tom? We need to talk. The audacity made my blood boil. About what? How you've been sleeping with my wife. This situation is complicated. I care about Anne. Care about her? You've helped destroy her family. My son's family. That's why we should meet. Discuss this like men. I laughed bitterly. Like men? Real men don't sleep with married women. Tomorrow. My office. 10 a.m. For Harry's sake. He hung up before I could respond. Stacy touched my arm gently. You're not going, are you? Of course I am. Tom, Ross warned. Don't do anything stupid. I just want to look him in the eye. See what kind of man steals another man's wife. That night, I couldn't sleep in our bed. Every time I closed my eyes, I imagined them together. Instead, I sat in Harry's room, looking at his soccer trophies and school photos. How was I supposed to tell my 12-year-old son that his mother had betrayed us? My phone lit up with a text from Anne. Please talk to me. We need to figure this out. I ignored it, but another followed. Harry called. He wants to come home early. What should I tell him? That got my attention. I called her immediately. Why is he calling you? He says he's homesick. Wants to come back tomorrow. Did you tell him anything? No, of course not. She paused. What are we going to tell him? We? There is no we anymore. You gave that up at the Oliver Grand. He's still our son. And you're still his mother, even if you're a shit wife. She started crying again. I used to hate hearing her cry. Now it just made me angry. I'll pick him up tomorrow. I said. After I meet your boyfriend. What? Tom? No. I hung up. The next morning, Oliver's office building loomed over me like a monument to wealth. Floor-to-ceiling windows, marble lobby, security guards who probably cost more than my monthly mortgage. Mr. Morrison is expecting you, the receptionist said, eyeing my construction clothes with disdain. Oliver's office was bigger than my first apartment. He stood as I entered, extending his hand. I ignored it. Tom, thank you for coming. Save it. What do you want? He sat back down, adjusting his expensive tie. I want to handle this situation appropriately. Situation? That's what you call destroying my family. And wasn't happy. And you were just helping? Real humanitarian. I love her, Tom. The words hit me like a punch. Love her? You don't even know her. You know what she looks like in hotel rooms. I know who she is at 3 a.m. when Harry's sick. I know her favorite song, her worst fears, the way she hums while she cooks. People change. Feelings change. Yeah, they sure do. I stood up. Know what else changes? Lives. Families. Kids who have to grow up knowing their mother chose a rich prick over their father. That's not fair. Fair? You want to talk about fair? I leaned over his desk. Fair would be me beating you to a pulp right now. Fair would be destroying your reputation like you destroyed my marriage. Is that a threat? No, Oliver. That's a promise. I turned to leave, but his voice stopped me. I'm asking her to move in with me. My hand tightened on the doorknob. Good luck with that. Hope you like raising other men's children. Harry needs stability. I was across the room before I realized I'd moved, grabbing his shirt collar. Don't you ever say my son's name again. He's not part of your fancy new life. Security arrived moments later, but I was already leaving. Outside, I called Ross. How'd it go? About as well as expected. Need you to do me a favor. Name it. Find out everything you can about Oliver Morrison. Business dealings, legal history, everything. Tom, just do it. Please. I headed to the soccer camp next, dreading every mile. Harry ran to me as soon as he saw me, all gangly limbs and innocent smile. Dad, where's Mom? She couldn't make it, buddy. Is everything okay? You look weird. I hugged him tight, breathing in his familiar scent. We need to talk, son. But first, ice cream? It's bad, isn't it? His voice was small. That's why you're buying ice cream first. Damn, when did he get so perceptive? At the ice cream shop, Harry picked at his sundae while I struggled to find the right words. Mom and we're having some problems. Are you getting divorced? Like Billy's parents? The direct question caught me off guard. I don't know yet, buddy. But I want you to know that none of this is your fault. And both your mom and I love you very much. Is it because of Oliver? My spoon clattered against the table. What? I saw Mom with him last week. At the mall. They were holding hands. His eyes filled with tears. I didn't tell you because I thought maybe I was wrong. I reached across the table and squeezed his hand. You did nothing wrong, Harry. Nothing. I hate him, Harry whispered. And I hate Mom too. No, don't hate your mom. She made a mistake, a big one. But she's still your mother. Can I stay with you? Of course you can, buddy. As long as you want. That night, after Harry was asleep, I sat on our back porch with Ross and Stacy, telling them about the confrontation with Oliver. He actually threatened you with security? Stacy was incredulous. Rich people, Ross snorted, think money makes them untouchable. My phone buzzed with another text from Anne. Oliver told me about today. We need to talk about custody arrangements. Custody? I showed them the message. She's really doing this. Tom, Stacy said gently, what are you going to do? I looked at my friends' concerned faces, thought about Harry's tears at the ice cream shop, remembered Oliver's smug expression in his fancy office. I'm going to fight. For Harry. For our home. For everything. We're with you, Ross said. Whatever you need. I nodded, watching the stars emerge in the darkening sky. And in Oliver thought they had all the power. Money, lawyers, influence. But they'd forgotten something important. They'd made an enemy of a man with nothing left to lose. It was her shopping list that finally broke me. Found it stuck to the fridge under Harry's soccer schedule, her neat handwriting listing ordinary things. Milk, bread, Harry's favorite cereal, that special detergent I liked. At the bottom, she'd written, Tom, razor blades? With a little heart, because she always noticed the small things. I stood there in our kitchen, my kitchen now, holding that scrap of paper, remembering how she'd stick post-it notes everywhere. Little reminders, little love notes, little pieces of our life together. It was like she'd mapped her presence across the house, in corners I hadn't thought to look for her. And now, those notes felt like breadcrumbs leading to a life we couldn't go back to. Dad? Harry's voice pulled me back. He was wearing her old Northwestern sweatshirt, the one she'd had since college. It swallowed his small frame, but he hadn't taken it off in days. Can you help me with my hair? I can't get it right like Mom does. Used to. Like Mom used to do. We stood in the bathroom together, my big hands fumbling with the hair gel she'd always used on him. The bottle was nearly empty. Another thing I'd have to learn to buy. Another ritual I'd have to learn to replicate. Not so much, Harry guided, gentle with my ignorance. Mom always said less is more. Your mom says a lot of smart things. The present tense felt wrong in my mouth, but I couldn't bring myself to use past tense. Not yet. Did, Harry corrected quietly. Did say. Afterward, he stood staring at his reflection, scrutinizing my work. His hair didn't look quite right, and I braced for his disappointment. But he smiled, a fragile, hopeful thing, and said, "Thanks, Dad." That night, I automatically set 3 places for dinner. Had to put 1 plate back, the sound of the cabinet closing echoing like a gunshot in our too-quiet kitchen. Harry pretended not to notice, just like he pretended not to notice how I still made coffee for 2 every morning. "Can we have breakfast for dinner?" he asked, and my heart cracked because that was always her solution to hard days. We made pancakes together, and I let him add chocolate chips like she would. Some spilled on the counter, and we both froze, waiting for her playful scolding that wouldn't come. "Mom would say we're making a mess," Harry said, his voice small. "Yeah, but she'd help clean it up while stealing the chocolate chips." His laugh was watery but real. Progress. Later, helping him with homework, I found her half-finished crossword puzzle from Sunday morning, that last normal morning. Her coffee cup still sat beside it, a faint lipstick mark on the rim. I couldn't bring myself to wash it. 7 down is ephemeral, Harry said, peering at the puzzle. Mom taught me that word last week. It means something that doesn't last forever. Like marriages. Like promises. Like the way she used to sing in the shower every morning. Bedtime was the hardest. Harry clutched her pillow. It still smelled like her shampoo, that vanilla lavender scent that used to fill our bathroom. I saw his small fingers tracing the stitching on the pillowcase, like he was trying to memorize every detail. "Can I call her?" he asked, then immediately backtracked. "Never mind. I don't want to." "It's okay to want to call her, buddy. It's okay to miss her. Even though she hurt us?" Even then. He dialed her number before he could lose his courage. She answered on the first ring, like she'd been waiting. "Harry? Baby?" "Hi, Mom." His voice trembled. I can't remember if you said to feed Winston twice or 3 times a day. Winston was his goldfish. We both knew he remembered perfectly well. She'd written the instructions on a post-it note stuck to the tank. "Twice, sweetheart. But you can give him an extra pinch if he looks hungry." "Okay." He clutched the phone tighter. "I'm wearing your Northwestern sweater. Is that okay?" "Of course it is, baby. It looks better on you anyway. It still smells like you." I heard her sharp intake of breath, imagined her crying in that fancy new apartment, surrounded by boxes of her extracted life. After they hung up, Harry cried himself to sleep clutching her pillow. I sat beside him, running my fingers through his hair like she used to, humming her lullaby off-key. When his breathing finally evened out, I stayed, staring at the shadows on the ceiling, wishing I could freeze time. Even in this imperfect moment, my phone buzzed her. "Is he okay?" "No, none of us are." I found his permission slip for the Science Museum. It needs to be signed by Friday. Such a normal thing to discuss. Like we were still parents who shared a home instead of a custody agreement. "I've got it covered." "Tom." Her voice caught. "I found your Father's Day card. The one Harry helped me pick out last month. It's still in my desk drawer. Should I keep it?" The words hurt. Some memories belong in drawers. Later that night, I found Harry's Mother's Day cards from over the years, stored neatly in her bedside table. Each one covered in glitter and childish declarations of love. "World's best mom" seemed like cruel irony now. But then I found this year's card, the one he hadn't given her yet. He'd written, "Thank you for teaching me about stars and flowers," and big words like ephemeral. "Love, Harry." I left it on her pillow. Some things needed to be said, even if they hurt. The next morning, making Harry's lunch, I found myself checking the kitchen calendar, still covered in her handwriting. Soccer practices, dental appointments, little reminders like Harry, show and tell, and Tom, oil change? Dad? Harry appeared, still wrapped in her sweatshirt. Can we make Mom's banana bread? I know the recipe. She taught me. So we did. The kitchen filled with the familiar smell, cinnamon and vanilla and home. Harry knew exactly how much sugar to add, precisely how brown the bananas needed to be. Mom says the secret ingredient is love, he said, then caught himself. Mom said. We both stared at the batter, remembering Sunday mornings with flour in her hair and laughter in the air. I reached for the spatula she always used, my hand hesitating before gripping its worn wooden handle. Her fingerprints might have been the last to hold it. Maybe, I said carefully, some things don't have to be past tense. Maybe some love stories change shape but don't end. Harry nodded, understanding more than any 12-year-old should have to. Like how I'm mad at her but still love her? Exactly like that. We baked the bread, and it turned out perfectly, just like she used to make. Harry wrapped a piece in a napkin, placed it carefully in a plastic bag. For Mom, he explained, to show her we remember. Because that's what we were learning to do. Remember without drowning, love without breaking, move forward without forgetting. One shopping list, one sweatshirt, one piece of banana bread at a time. The morning of the custody hearing, I found Harry in our bedroom, sitting cross-legged on Anne's side of the bed. He was holding her old hairbrush, the silver one her grandmother had given her, running his fingers over the engraved flowers again and again. She brushed my hair every night, he said quietly. 100 strokes, just like her grandma taught her. Said it was our special time. The brush still held strands of her hair, golden in the morning light. I remembered how she used to sit on the edge of our bed, brushing her hair before sleep, humming softly. How many times had I fallen asleep to that sound? Harry wore his navy suit, the one she'd picked out last spring. You look just like your daddy, she'd said, straightening his tie with proud fingers. Now my own hands felt clumsy as I helped him with the knot, the silk slipping through my fingers. Is your tie too tight? I asked, noticing him tugging at his collar. No. His voice cracked. I just can't breathe right. I sat beside him on the bed, feeling the mattress dip where she used to sleep. The sheets still smelled faintly of her lavender lotion, no matter how many times I washed them. We don't have to do this today, I said. We can ask for more time. He clutched the hairbrush tighter. Will Mom's perfume be there? Such a child's way of asking if she'd be present. Yes, buddy. The one that smells like vanilla and flowers? Or the new one she wears now? The new one. The expensive one Oliver had given her. The one that made her smell like a stranger. I don't know, I answered honestly. In the kitchen, I found him carefully packing the banana bread we'd made yesterday. His hands shook as he wrapped it in wax paper, then tissue paper, then finally in the special napkins she'd always used for company. What if she doesn't want it? He whispered. She'll want it. I watched him smooth the napkin corners, just like she'd taught him. She'll want anything that comes from you. The courthouse loomed, all stone and secrets, and waited outside the judge's chambers, wearing her Easter dress, pale blue with tiny pearl buttons that Harry used to count when he was little. Her hair was pulled back the way she used to wear it for parent-teacher meetings, exposing the small scar behind her ear from when Harry had accidentally hit her with his toy car at age 3. Hi, baby, she breathed, and Harry's hand tightened in mine. She still wore her mother's ring, the small sapphire catching light. Your tie's crooked, she said softly, hands twitching like she wanted to fix it, but she didn't move, didn't cross the space between us. That space felt infinite now, filled with all our broken pieces. Harry shifted, the tissue paper crinkling in his pocket. We made. What is it, sweetheart? He pulled out the carefully wrapped banana bread, the napkin corners now slightly crushed. It's probably not as good as yours. Her hands trembled as she took it. You remembered the secret ingredient? Love, he whispered, and for a moment, none of the rest mattered. Not Oliver appearing around the corner, not the custody papers in my briefcase, not the judge waiting behind those heavy doors. The judge was older, with kind eyes that reminded me of my mother. Her office smelled of coffee and old books, and she had a small ceramic frog on her desk that made Harry smile. "Would you like to hold him?" she asked, passing him the frog. "My granddaughter painted him. Says he's lucky." Harry cradled it carefully, running his finger over its bumpy surface. "Our kitchen window had a frog," he said suddenly. "Mom used to say he was watching over her garden. And does he still watch over it? The flowers are all dead now." His voice got very small. "Dad tries to water them, but they know Mom's gone." After Harry's interview, the judge spoke to us separately, and went first, emerging with mascara tracks on her cheeks and Harry's napkin-wrapped banana bread clutched to her chest. In the judge's chambers, I could still smell Anne's perfume, the old one, the one that meant home. "Mr. Walker," the judge began, "I understand you have evidence about Mr. Morrison's activities and your wife's involvement." The files sat heavy in my briefcase, full of proof of fraud and lies. But all I could think about was Harry counting pearl buttons and brushing her hair, the dead flowers in her garden. "Yes, Your Honor." "And you haven't submitted them?" "No." "Why not?" I thought about the hairbrush Harry still held, the way he smoothed napkin corners, how he couldn't breathe in his tie. "Because sometimes loving someone means protecting them," I said quietly, "even from the consequences of their own mistakes." In the hallway, Harry had fallen asleep on the bench, his head in Anne's lap. She stroked his hair. Not 100 strokes, but gentle all the same. The banana bread sat unopened beside them, but I could smell its cinnamon warmth. "Remember when he was little," she whispered. "How he couldn't sleep unless we both kissed his forehead. One kiss from Mommy, one kiss from Daddy." "In that exact order," I nodded. "Or we had to start over. I've ruined everything, haven't I?" I watched our son's chest rise and fall, his hands still curled around his mother's old hairbrush. "Not everything," I said finally. "Not him." A week later, the judge's decision arrived. Joint custody. That night, helping Harry pack for his first overnight at Anne's new place, I found him trying to fold her Northwestern sweatshirt. "It doesn't smell like her anymore," he said. I taught him how to fold it the way she did. Sleeves first, then body, a perfect rectangle. Some lessons stick with you, even when everything else changes. When it came to pick him up, she looked different. No expensive perfume, no designer clothes. Just his mother, wearing the vanilla scent he loved and a sweater I recognized from our first date. "I made up your room," she told him softly. "Got those plastic stars for the ceiling." "The green ones?" Harry asked. "Like at home?" "Just like at home." He hugged me goodbye, smelling of my aftershave because he'd started using it every morning to be more like Dad. "Love you," he whispered against my chest. "Love you more." After they left, I stood in our quiet house, surrounded by the ghosts of our old life. In the kitchen, I automatically started to set 3 places for dinner before catching myself. But when I wrapped up the extra plate, I used one of her special napkins. Because some habits are worth keeping, even when everything else changes. 1 napkin fold, 1 goodnight kiss, 1 piece of banana bread at a time. The first Sunday without Harry, I found myself counting the hours by old routines. 9 a.m., no cartoons blaring while he ate the cereal he always spilled. 10 a.m., no arguing about brushing teeth. 11, no negotiating about which clothes were Sunday appropriate. His bedroom door stood open, morning light falling across his unmade bed. He'd left in such a hurry Friday evening, excited about his first weekend at Mom's, that his pajamas still lay tangled in the sheets. I sat on his bed, breathing in the lingering scent of the shampoo he'd used that morning, the same brand and always bought him, the one that smelled like apples and something else I could never identify. My phone buzzing broke the silence. A picture from Harry, chocolate chip pancakes, slightly burnt around the edges. "Mom tried," his text read. "She forgot to wait for the bubbles like you taught me." I smiled despite the ache. "Did you tell her about the bubbles?" "No. Didn't want to make her sad. They taste like memories anyway." Sometimes my son's words hit straight to the heart. The doorbell startled me at exactly noon, our old Sunday lunchtime, and stood there, Harry beside her, both carrying familiar blue plastic bins. "We found something," Harry said, pushing past me into the house. "Mom kept everything, Dad. Everything." In the living room, they unpacked the bins, artwork, School projects, birthday cards, childhood treasures I thought were lost in the separation. Each piece carefully preserved, each memory protected in clear plastic sleeves. This one, Harry pulled out a crumpled paper, from when I had chicken pox. Remember? How could I forget? He'd been 5, covered in calamine lotion, miserable until Anne had brought him special paper and markers to his sick bed on the couch. You drew spots on everyone, Anne said softly, touching the faded red dots on the paper family. Said it wasn't fair for you to be spotty alone. She was wearing her old blue cardigan, the one with the slightly frayed cuff she used to chew on when nervous. Her hair was in that messy bun she used to wear for cleaning days, not the perfect style she'd adopted during the Oliver months. I kept everything, she whispered, not meeting my eyes. Even when I was trying to be someone else, I couldn't let these go. Harry pulled out more artwork, years of family portraits, stick figures holding hands under triangular houses and yellow suns, each one labeled in Anne's careful handwriting with dates and little notes. Harry's first day of school. He made everyone wear red because it's the bravest color. After the zoo, insisted the giraffes were wearing pants. Family portrait, drawn while Daddy was away at work conference, said he needed us to have his picture. Her notes tracked our life together, little moments I'd forgotten until seeing them through her eyes. Can we hang them up? Harry asked. In both houses? He didn't say homes. Just houses. The distinction felt important somehow. We spent the afternoon creating galleries of his childhood. In his room at our house, my house now, he wanted the adventure pictures, dinosaurs and superheroes, and that imaginary purple dog he'd been obsessed with. Mom needs the family ones, he declared, sorting through the portraits. So she remembers she's still family. Anne's hands trembled as she took them. At her new place, we hung them together. Me holding the nails because I always could find the right height, and directing placement because she always had the better eye for arrangement. Harry deciding which memories belonged where. Her apartment was smaller than I'd imagined. No trace of Oliver's expensive taste. Instead, I saw touches of the Anne I'd first fallen in love with. Mismatched coffee mugs, books everywhere, that ratty old blanket her grandmother had made. In Harry's room there, he'd recreated his old bed exactly. Same pillow arrangement, same stuffed animals in the same order. On his nightstand, a photo of all 3 of us at the beach last summer. Sand in our hair, squinting in the sun, laughing at some forgotten joke. I have the same one at Dad's, he explained, so I always wake up to both of you. Later, after hanging the last picture, and disappeared into her kitchen and returned with 3 mugs of hot chocolate. She'd remembered how we all liked it. Extra marshmallows for Harry, a hint of cinnamon in mine. Found this too, she said, pulling out a faded envelope. Inside, a photo strip from some long ago mall date. Us making silly faces, Harry barely visible in Anne's arms, so small then. You've got chocolate on your nose, Harry pointed at young me in the photo. Just like now, Dad. I wiped my nose automatically, and then laughed. A real laugh. Her old laugh. The one that used to fill our kitchen on Sunday mornings. That evening, helping Harry pack his overnight bag to come home, I noticed how carefully he folded his clothes, the same way Anne had always taught him. Some lessons stick, even when everything else changes. Dad, he asked, clutching his mother's old Northwestern sweatshirt. If I leave this here, will you be sad? No, buddy. It's good to have pieces of home in both places. Like the pictures? Like the pictures. After they left, I found a new drawing on Harry's desk in my house. 3 figures, one at each house, connected by a line with a small figure walking between them. It's a bridge, he explained during his bedtime call. See? No one has to be alone. We're still connected. I heard Anne in the background, telling him 5 more minutes. Heard his familiar negotiation. But Dad needs to hear about the purple dog story. Some things never change. My phone lit up with a text from Anne. He wants us both at his art show next week. Together but separate. Can we do that? For him? I looked at his bridge drawing, at the photo strip from happier days, at the life mapped out in crayon and love and memories. Yes, I replied. We can do that. Because sometimes family isn't about living together, but about building bridges between separate spaces. Sometimes love doesn't end. It just finds new ways to exist. One drawing, one cup of hot chocolate, one shared memory at a time. I found Harry at his desk that morning, carefully drawing lines on his cereal bowl with a marker. Halfway up the sides, perfectly level. So I eat the same amount at both houses, he explained, not looking up. Then it's fair to everyone. These were the things that broke me. Not the big moments, but the small ways he tried to keep his worlds balanced. The twin toothbrushes worn exactly the same amount. The careful division of his favorite t-shirts. The way he hummed his lullabies while doing homework at my house, and my old Navy songs at hers. Tonight was his art show. He'd been working on something special, dividing his time between houses with mathematical precision. I'd hear him up at night, whispering counts, 10 minutes on Dad's part, so 10 on Mom's. Equal. Fair. He appeared in the kitchen wearing odd socks, one from each house. They match in different ways, he said when he caught me looking. Like us. The morning light caught the calendar on his wall. The one he'd made himself. Every day marked with tiny symbols I didn't understand. When I asked, he showed me. A star for days we all smiled. A heart for when Mom used her old perfume. A circle for when Dad remembered to hum while making breakfast. A paper trail of healing. In the garden, he had a secret project, 2 identical pots, one at each house. Every day, he'd water them exactly the same amount, measured in the cap of the bottle. Growing something was all he'd say. Something that needs both places to live. The art show was in the evening. He insisted on getting ready at exactly 4:17. That's when the sun hits both houses the same way, he explained. Like it was the most natural thing in the world. His room had become a study in symmetry, photos arranged so each house had the same view, books divided by chapters, odd numbers here, even there, bedsheets folded with corners matched to his hand width. Ready? I asked as we left. He nodded, touching the doorframe where his height marks used to be, a ritual he'd created himself, pressing his fingers to the ghost of measurements past, and met us outside the school, wearing the perfume he'd asked for. Not her old one or her new one, but something different, something just for now. I smell like today, she said when he hugged her. Not like before or after. Like now. His art piece was covered with 2 cloths, one from each house, sewn together down the middle. Wait, he said when we reached for it. I need to tell you about the counting first. He explained his process, how he'd worked on each part in equal minutes, used colors from both houses, mixed old memories with new ones. How he'd counted brushstrokes to make sure neither side had more than the other. It's not about being the same, he said. It's about being equal. Different but equal. When he pulled the cloths away, we saw not a division of worlds but a merging of them. He'd painted time itself, moments flowing into each other like water. The morning sun through his window at my house, bleeding into sunset at Mom's. His odd socks walking paths between homes. The twin plants he'd been growing, roots intertwined across canvas. See? He pointed to details we might have missed. The shadows always point to the other house, and the clouds make bridges, and everything grows both ways. After the show, in the parking lot, he gave us each a small box. Inside mine was half a cookie, carefully wrapped. In Anne's, the other half. I've been saving pieces, he said. Everything that felt too big to eat alone. That night, during his call to Anne, he asked to talk to both of us at once. We listened as he explained his calendar, his sock choices, his measured cereal bowls. I'm not trying to fix it, he said finally. I'm just trying to make it make sense. Later, and sent me a photo of his nighttime ritual at her house. The way he'd arranged his stuffed animals to face my place, but kept their tails touching her walls. His own kind of bridge building. He's not splitting himself, she wrote. He's expanding, making room for all of it. I looked at my own version of his room, at the careful symmetry he'd created, at the calendar marking moments of light in both his worlds, at the mysterious plants growing in matched pots, one here, one there, both reaching toward each other. Because maybe that's what healing looks like. Not a perfect split, not a forced joining, but a careful counting of moments. A mindful matching of socks. A sharing of cookies too big to eat alone. And sometimes, if you're very lucky, Your child teaches you that love doesn't need to be divided to be fair. It just needs to be counted, measured in morning light and shadow bridges, in split cookies and matched socks, in plants that grow two places at once, different but equal, separate but whole, growing always, in all ways, toward each other.